Thank you for that. As I said, we're going to discuss the building partnerships for fellowships. So we're going to start by the predetermined questions, just to hear the experience from the Kenya Fellowship. And then thereafter, we're going to ask the audience to ask questions or to make comments about your experiences with fellowship building. So please remember that this space is considered, we're not coming in as experts, we're coming in as we're speaking from our experience, but we're also sharing knowledge. So please feel free to post in the Q&A or in the chat about the various experiences that you have and questions as well. So I'll start the questions. Let's start with, when was the Kenya Fellowship formed? What have been the activities that you've done since it was formed, and how were these activities identified? So this question will go to Edwin.
Okay. Thank you, Phoebe, for the question. I hope you can all hear me. My network is a bit stable, but yeah, okay. Thanks for that. If I got you right, Phoebe, you asked about when the Kenya Fellowship was formed and the activities that we have conducted and how we chose these activities, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, so to answer the first part of the question, our Kenya Fellowship was formed in 2017 officially, but then WMI scholars from Kenya started holding meetings as far back as 2013, and by then I think there was only one annual meeting due to the small number of scholars by then. However, as the number grew by, led by the then chairperson Paul, who was Paul, an official fellowship was formed in 2017, as I mentioned, when the Kenya Fellowship Constitution was also put in place. So to answer your question, Phoebe, the Kenya Fellowship was officially formed in 2017. You also asked about the activities that we as the Kenya Fellowship have engaged in, and these are quite a number, with the general aim of giving back to the community with the little that we have. So we have conducted medical camps, and this was in 2018, the first one that we did. And I remember this was the time when I was joining WMI. We have also visited schools, and most of these schools that we visited, they host disadvantaged children, such as rehabilitation centers. We've also visited a school for the blind, and this was recently, just last month, in Thika. Thika is a town in Kenya, and a children's orphanage. This was around 2 years ago. We have also paid a visit to a women's prison. This was also in Thika. We've also conducted a tree planting session here in Nairobi. It was during this event that we had a number of partners who came in handy to make the event a success. If I recall correctly, the last part of the question was about how we chose these activities, right? Okay, I can say that logistical reasons have greatly influenced our decision-making regarding the location and the nature of our activities. As you have heard, most of our activities are held here in Nairobi, and where a majority of our WMI scholars are either in school or working. This is for the graduate scholars. Having our activities centered around Nairobi enables most of us to attend these activities. However, our dream at the Kenya Fellowship is to have a pool of partners who can facilitate our events in terms of financial support, so that we can widen our reach to even the communities that are located far away from Nairobi. Secondly, we have identified a number of organizations. Mostly these are schools that host disadvantaged children, and we choose these organizations that we think can maximally benefit from our community service programs. So whenever we have scheduled activities, we just contact any of these organizations, and the nature of our activity is pretty determined by their schedule and also their needs. So they give us their schedule as well as what they need, they require from us, and then depending on our finances, we can plan ourselves on that. So that's what I have for the question.
Thank you so much for that answer, for that contribution, Edwin. So so just to summarize what you've just said, what I talked about in terms of official fellowships, and as we can see, if the activity started way before you were officialized, before you became an official fellowship, and logistics. So just summarizing, logistics played a lot of influenced how you identify that. And I've seen that most of that also influences most fellowships when we're talking about the challenges that we have with members. So just an encouragement to everyone who's part of a fellowship to say that it doesn't matter where the fellowship members are, the activities can still go on. That one of the things that I admire about the Kenya Fellowship is that you are a lot, but you are also from different parts of the country. So the activities are not just based in one area; they are based in wherever the membership. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where the members are. So it doesn't matter if there are one or two people who are in one part of Kenya. The Kenya Fellowship activities still go on. So thank you for that, Edwin. The second question I'd like to ask is, how have you identified the partners? So how have you identified both programs and funding partners for these activities?
Okay, so I was just confirming whether I'm muted or not. So I hope you can still hear me.
Yes, please.
Okay. So to give context to your answer and to your question, Phoebe, I'd like to highlight a few organizations that we have previously partnered with in our activities. We have, first of all, Spice Warriors of Kenya. This organization is much dedicated to environmental transformation and mostly planting trees. We also have Guso Kenya, which deals with the sexual and reproductive health of women, mostly at the coastal region of Kenya. We also have Amref Kenya, several pharmaceutical companies, and this really came in handy during our medical camp that I previously mentioned, that was held in Mombasa in 2018, and a number of volunteers and also well-wishers who share common interest with us. So coming back to how we formed these partnerships, I can say that we look for organizations that have common interest and mission of giving back to society, just as we do. So it is easier to work with partners with whom you share a common interest. And this is also dependent on the nature of the activities that we have. For example, Spice Warriors Kenya, they gave us seedlings and seeds during our tree planting session. If you remember, I mentioned that we have conducted a tree planting session here in Nairobi. So it was easier to get this partnership because this organization, Spice Warriors of Kenya, is passionate about environmental transformation, just as I mentioned above, before. And also, they also hold tree planting activities on their own. So engaging them to partner with us for our tree planting session was easy, I can say. So another example of how common interest helped us find partners was during our medical camp in Mombasa. And in 2018, the chairperson of the Kenya Fellowship was called Paul, and I'm sure most of us know him. So Paul contacted a number of pharmaceutical companies, and they were able to give us drugs and other essentials that significantly contributed to the success of our activity. And I can also, I remember this event was really a success because of the large number of medical students and scholars from the medical faculty here in Kenya. Another way of how we've identified partners, we have within our leadership in the Kenya Fellowship, we have a social media coordinator who is tasked with publicizing our activities through posters via different social media platforms. So like a month prior to our activity, we form posters which we circulate amongst us, to our friends, and this really enable us to get volunteers and even well-wishers. Lastly, I think we have organizations that are known to our scholars because we are diverse, coming from different parts of the country and with, I say, also different interests. And we encourage our scholars to invite such organizations that are known to them at a personal level to partner with us in our activities. For example, we have recently collaborated with AMREF Kenya, and this organization, we were introduced to it by, I think, Sylvia. Sylvia is one of our scholars here in Kenya, and she's also part of AMREF Kenya. So it was easier working with them during our visit to School for the Blind in Thika last month, because she was known to it, to the organization. And so yeah, we use organizations that are known to our scholars. On this also, I can give an example. I think, and I think you'll correct me, Phoebe, if I'm wrong. Partnerships is not all about organizations coming to help us. It's also about us helping other organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on the same, we were contacted by Paul, our previous chair. He wanted to hold a mangrove planting session along the coast, and this was in conjunction with Guso Kenya, which I mentioned, that is passionate about sexual and reproductive health, mostly at the coastal region. So they contacted us, and we were able to send in a few scholars, including Paul, and me being the treasurer, we were able to solicit funds from the scholars, and we were able to buy, I think, 100 mangrove trees for the activities. So we also facilitated the activity. And this was held in April, I remember, this year. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And indeed, partnerships. I think sometimes when we're thinking about partnership, we forget the give and take relationship that partnerships are supposed to play. So sometimes we just feel like we think when we're looking at, especially if it's a not-for-profit activity, for example, as a fellowship, because we're not making a profit, we are giving back to the community. When we're thinking of partnerships, sometimes we are thinking about just us getting, as opposed to giving back as well. So partnerships, as you said, Edwin, you rightly put it, it's us partnering. It could be, I mentioned, it's program and funding. So it could be us partnering with a school if we're doing an outreach at the school. Us reaching, even the community is our partner. For example, for you to do an activity in the community, from my experience, it's you need to get the community buy-in. So that buy-in becomes a partnership. For you to provide that service to the community, you can't force that service on the community. There has to be some form of partnership. So when we're looking at, even when we're looking at this topic of partnership, let's look at it broadly in terms of what does it mean? What are the roles? Are we giving or are we taking? But usually partnerships are a give and take. And you mentioned that for you to identify those partners, you needed to look at a commonality that you have, which is a mission or the work that you do or the values that they hold. So partnerships are not really, cannot be put in a box or limited to just what they can benefit the fellowships, but what fellowships can also benefit to the other party as well. Thank you for that, Edwin. So the next question I will be asking Bella. She's been quiet for a while. Lest everyone forget that she's also on the call. What are some of the successes in partnership development and collaboration with these partners as a fellowship? What are some of the successes you've achieved as a fellowship with these partnerships over the years?
Thank you, Phoebe. As much as partnership is concerned, I think WMI Kenya, we have had the best partners so far. And then partners support each other, and the collaborative report makes a way for brainstorming for opportunities. It's through partnership that you get to explore more about a certain organization as a partner, and maybe you can explore about their opportunities that they have within that organization. Let's say you have been looking for a job and you are in the medical field. Just like Casey said, the other time we partnered with Mombasa County during our medical camp community service. And then, so if you are a medical student and you are looking for an opportunity, that actually gives you the best platform to get to explore what they have. So at least when you'll be, you can do some application, and at least you know the link to go through, the channel to go through during your application. And also, partners make it, they give you an easier platform to raise funds. So when we are going to do a community service, it's not only us, like WMI Kenya, we are going to do a community service and we are partnering with some organizations. They actually kind of chip in helping us raise some funds and use it during that event. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So what I'm hearing is that when we're talking about the different partners, we're talking about also the human resource part of it. So successes would be that in instances where you didn't have enough manpower or human resource, the success would be that those partners will provide that. So
Yeah,
I hope I'm clear. Yes, please. So volunteers and other successes would be that in areas where, so when you're talking about the human resource component, in areas we're talking about, the members are spread all over the place, so all over the country. Sorry. So if you're in a place where you have few members, connecting it to even Edwin's answers, if you have a partner that has come in as an in-kind donation, so in-kind would be they're not really donating money, they are donating either their services or they're donating their space, their venue. That makes it the activities a success. I hope I haven't added or subtracted to your contribution.
Yeah, because okay, we have even had some volunteers previously who actually they provided space for accommodation, because we don't do our community service at a central place in Nairobi.
Mm-hmm.
We keep the places, we use counties. So if it's in Mombasa County and we live far away and we don't have some place to get some volunteers.
Bella, for some reason, your audio, you sound a bit far off. I don't know if it's just me, but
Hello, can you hear me?
yes, please. Now I can.
So I'm saying, previously we have had the community service in different places, and not centrally in Nairobi alone. Let's say when we had the medical camp in Mombasa, and some volunteers through partnering, they come through and actually provide space for accommodation, because you come from far, you don't know anybody around, and you actually need a place to sleep and wake up tomorrow for the event. So they actually chip in, and through them, we actually get to provide space for our scholars who actually might be stranded, seeking for a place to sleep here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you so much, Bella. And then on the flip side of that, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered as a fellowship when it comes to seeking partnerships?
Okay, the challenge that we normally face, and this is the biggest challenge, some partners, they want a share. Like for us, we don't have one place for the community service. So let's say we identify different places, and when you go approach them that we want to partner with you guys and do such and such activity, they will tell you like you actually need to pay some amount to book space, because we don't have a place where we normally do our community service. Let's say you are going to an orphanage, or you are going to a school or some kind of a public place. And this, we recently faced this, and the guys were asking for money. So yeah, the partners, they want their share. They don't look at it like this something which is going to help the community, so it should be given out freely. And then we actually, some partners don't provide financial support. When you tell them that we want to partner with you and do the activity, they will just come. They will just present their presence, and they don't actually provide financial support, because during that activity we need to purchase some things that we are going to use, and you find that we don't have enough money for that, but for them they won't chip in, and that's it. It's really hard. And then again, you see our partners. Let's say you approach our CBO, like Chelsea mentioned. We have actually partnered with Ball Step Initiative, Spice Warriors, and you get some of the partners, they have different priorities. We want to visit our orphanage, and for them they want to actually organize for games or sports. So you find that what is important to us, it's actually not important to them. So maybe they won't go with ours. So maybe we'll end up changing ours, or they change to ours. So it's kind of hard because the priorities don't get together.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, and also from the Zambia Fellowship point of view, we've also faced similar challenges where, as you know, it's very hard to trust is really earned. It's you need to, when building a partnership, you're also building trust. So you're coming from a place where it takes a while for people to, if it's in-kind donation or programming, it's a bit easier because they're just your all you need is a common goal, a common mission, a common value. But when it comes to funding, it's a little bit more because they are looking at different aspects. They do not know you. So from the Zambia Fellowship point, context, one of the biggest challenges we've had with building partnership is the monetary partners in monetary form kind of partnership. I see your hand, Chelsea. Give me a minute. I just wanted to finish the thought. Whereby if you do not have a track record of having been funded, and fellowships usually are not, some are registered as CBOs, but when you're not registered, you do not have a track record, or you're not legally recognized as an entity, it's hard to get partners, funding partners especially. So I hear you when you're talking about funding challenges. Yes, please, Edwin, your contribution.
Okay, I just wanted to add on what Cynthia, that is Stella, said. Some of our partners have payment for us to use their venue. As I mentioned before, we conducted a tree planting session, and it was in one of the tree conservancy overseas here in Nairobi, and they required us to pay 200 shillings per person, and we had quite a number of volunteers, and even scholars were a lot. And this really, as much as we were spending money to buy seedlings on top of what our other partners, and also coming on to financial support. Some partners just want, in as much as our activities are financially supported, partners are reluctant to give financial support. And on what you just mentioned, that a legal entity, a fellowship is a legal entity, it's easier for them to obtain finances. On the same, I think in Kenya, I mentioned that we were officially we became a fellowship in 2017, and we acquired by then. So we are recognized. Finding a financial donors has been hard because we haven't renewed our certificate, and so working with partners who are able to give us financial support cannot channel their donation. So that has also been a challenge.
I hear you. And this is a common challenge also when you're talking to, when we did a survey as WMI last year, when we're talking about what are the biggest challenges. That one was also the one of the top challenges that we had. So maybe can we talk about, are there any opportunities that you've seen as you existed as a fellowship? So both of you can answer, or one of you can answer. What are some of the opportunities you've seen in those challenges? How have you overcome that challenge, especially the funding challenge, to ensure that the activities continue happening?
I think I can answer the question from a treasury point of view because I'm the current treasurer in. This has been a challenge, and when we were talking, this was one of the things. One of the ways is we want to renew our license, certificate. So our opportunities in this, we want to open a bank account, and this is dependent on our renewal of the certificate. So once we take the certificate, it will be much easier for a bank account. Approaching potential donors or financial partners will be much easier because channeling funds to recognize your account much easier for them, because even for transparency and accountability reasons, it will be much easier on the same. I think Bella wants to add on to that.
Yes, please, Bella.
Yes, Phoebe. Just on the challenges that we have actually faced. I was forgetting. The one of the biggest challenges we are actually facing is students, the scholars. They don't have funds to facilitate their movement to wherever we are actually going to hold the community-based service. So it's really hard because most of them won't show up because they don't have funds to facilitate their movement. And this has really affected us because there are some scholars who we last saw back in 2018, and now we are in 2022. But then when you ask him, okay, you haven't been appearing, what's the problem? Then he or she will tell you, I don't have enough funds to facilitate me to wherever the event is. So that's a really a big challenge to us.
No, I hear you. I think one of the biggest, so just to start with the comment that Bella has made, the biggest challenge that most fellowships, including the Zambia Fellowship as well, has had is reconnecting after COVID. Also, because with COVID, we're not able to meet in person. So coming back to, we need to start to reintroduce ourselves to the community and the community service, and to ourselves as well, to reconnect. The reconnection part has been a bit harder. And I hear you on challenges with logistics, funding logistics for student scholars, because even some of the graduate scholars are not taking it for granted that all graduate scholars are in employment. So that has been one. Also, when we're talking about the challenges in that survey that we took in 2021, plus the follow-up meetings that we've had with the fellowship leaders, that's come out as one of the biggest challenges as well. Before we even, because that is the biggest partnership anyway. The biggest partnership is ourselves within the internal structures, the internal collaboration is before we even go out to external partnerships. So I hear you on that, Bella. We'll talk a little bit about an opportunity for that towards the end. But just to also comment on Edwin's opportunity with officially registering them, of being an official or registered entity helps. I don't know about other fellowships. Maybe you can, if you are representing another fellowship in the chat, you can also comment on some of the opportunities that you've seen for yourselves when in overcoming funding challenges as fellowships. So the last question that I would want to ask, it still goes to Bella, but Edwin, you can also feel free to also add to it. So WMI being the fellowship's biggest partner, how has your fellowship utilized this partnership to advance and support your fellowship activities?
Okay, WMI has really provided continuous support to us, and we are really grateful as Kenya Fellowship. And through it, actually, through WMI, even we find the graduate scholars from Kenya, we apply for the grant, for the community grant. I think you know about that. So that's really helped a lot. And then with the fellowship development fund, actually the Kenya Fellowship haven't applied for the fellowship development fund, but we are actually planning to apply for it either for our next community service. So you find that WMI introduced this fund to support us, and this will actually solve one of our problems, which is the student scholar who doesn't have the funds to facilitate their movement around when we are having an activity. Yes. Again, we are using my platform to actually advance ourselves. So we are really grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Bella. Edwin, any comment on that?
Yeah, just as Bella has mentioned, WMI is so vital to activities and being one of the partners because it facilitates student scholars fee. So our constitution provides us to have 3 meetings within a calendar year. So these are scheduled for February and June, July, and the AGM is usually in October. So the meetings are arranged in a manner of fact, in such a way that most of our scholars, student scholars per se, will have received their finances. So it will be much easier for them to give a certain percentage, not really so much, just our constitution requires us to have around 1,100 Kenyan shillings annually. So we don't force people to send in their cash, but then the fact that we have scheduled our meetings to be held at around this time, it helps WMI to facilitate our activities through the student scholars. Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you for that. Before I also add on to the support structures that Bella, you had something to add on? Yes, please.
Yeah, actually, we at Kenya Fellowship, we normally organize our activities depending on when the WMI will be wiring.
Sorry, Bella, we can hardly hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm saying we normally organize our community service depending on when the WMI will be wiring the scholars their fee. So you find most of our scholars, they use part of their fee to come to the service, like to the events that we organize. Now that you can't afford and then your fee has been wired, so you use part of it, just a small part of it to actually attend the event.
Okay. Your voice is very, very low. I don't know if people heard. Edwin, were you able to hear that?
Yes, I did. She's just elaborating on what I said on our scheduling of our meetings and or activities. It's always around when the WMI wire is done in February and in September. So having our meetings done in February, late February and in October enable us to use part of the wire that is done to the student scholars. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, so before as I was saying before, I go into just elaborating on some of the support structures that WMI has provided fellowships. I would like to open it up for discussions from the audience. If you have questions, comments, please raise your hand, or you could type them out in the chat or in the Q&A. Are there any questions? Let me check. Okay. Any questions, comments? Like I mentioned at the very beginning, this is it's a learning space. So we are learning from each other, speaking from different contexts. We might have some common challenges, but maybe there's some challenges that our respective fellowships are not experiencing, but you are. So while I give the audience a few minutes to type out. So just to elaborate on the last question on how WMI. Okay, so there's a question, sorry, from Teresa. What we would like to hear of the Zambia Fellowship experience too. Okay. I don't know which part, but I think throughout the webinar, I've been able to share a little bit about the experiences, but maybe some of the challenges I would mention and some of the opportunities that speaking not as an RC, but as a fellowship member has been. One, I've mentioned this with when it comes to partnership, is just the internal partnerships as well. With COVID, it was a bit harder to have activities. I know this has been a common challenge so far. So with COVID, it was harder to have activities and also have meetings. Also with funding partners and also program partners, we have very few scholars, both graduate and student scholars, in one place. We have, I think, about maybe the 4 or 5 in Lusaka. We have 2 in another province in Dola. I think we have 1 in Southern Province. So we are a bit, we're not in one place. So it's been the challenge has been to also organize activities. I know this has been a common challenge with other fellowship as well. So so in terms of also identifying one activity that we can all come together and do, especially that most of the members are student scholars and their schedules they do not really usually align. So that has been a challenge for us. The opportunity that we've seen in that has been to emulate even the Kenya Fellowship that has Kenya Fellowship, the Uganda Fellowship. I think even the Liberia Fellowship has been very active in terms of implementing smaller activities where some members are. So for example, if we are 5 of us in Lusaka, what activities can we do? The 5 of us, we do not have to have the whole fellowship body to be in one place. So that's been what's been encouraging us to say, okay, how many people are in one province or one university, and can they join, have a partnership with another organization where they do some activities to represent our fellowship as well. And when it comes to funding, I think that's still an issue. So we've had to write to. We haven't successfully done so, but one of the opportunities that we've identified is through CSR, that is corporate social responsibility. I don't know if this is something that other countries do, but in Zambia we have what we call corporate social responsibility, CSR in short. So this is where corporates are mandated, I think it's by law, to dedicate some of their money to a social a social activity or social ventures. So just identifying those corporates that might align with our mission, might align with the work that we do, just to say, can we have this activity? Can you fund this activity? But then, as Edwin said also, when you do not have, you're not a legal entity, but you also do not have finance systems in place, like a bank account that is separate from an individual, it's also harder for people to give money in monetary form. But we also encourage in-kind donations. For example, if you're going to work on sexual reproductive health rights or sanitation for girls and adolescents, and you want sanitary towels, you could just ask through their CSR to donate some of the things that you need, as opposed to them giving money. So that is from the Zambia context. I think I saw a Q&A. So Karani Olivere in the Q&A says, how can we as students and graduate scholars assist in the smooth functioning of WMI globally and its respective national fellowship? So this one has no specific person. I don't know if Edwin or Bella would like to answer this. How can we as students and graduate scholars assist in the smooth functioning of WMI globally and its respective national fellowship? I can give a perspective later. So maybe Edwin, would you like to go first?
I'm not sure of the exact answer that Oliver wants to hear, but then I think you, Phoebe, you are in a better position to answer this question. But then what I think is WMI requires us to be actively involved at our local level within our fellowships. So that's why they are more than happy to see us engage in the activities that we organize. In as much as they allow a lot of autonomy in what we do as fellowships, and then they require it is our expectation to be actively involved at a local level before, and then there are so many opportunities provided for by the WMI, which we as scholars can apply to serve at a global level. And I think such opportunities are open to all of us, and we can apply for them. So yeah, Phoebe, maybe you can add on that.
Thank you, Edwin. Before I add, Bella, did you have anything to add? Okay. So so for me, from my point of view, so speaking as a fellowship member as well, and looking at the challenges that we've discussed in terms of, first, I think it starts with us as individuals, scholars and students and graduate scholars. So fellowship activities will not be implemented if we are not active ourselves. So I think it starts with us to be dedicated. I know we are busy, life happens, we are busy with school, we're busy with work, but we need to also remember, for me, I think I continuously have to remember that why I became part of the fellowship in the first place, why I'm continuously engaging with WMI. For me, it's their belief in community service and giving back to the community. And I think doing it as a collective is much more easier than myself just getting up and say, I'm going into the community and doing something. I know we do that and it's a requirement when you're a student scholar. But me being part of a fellowship also helps me even venture out in activities that I might not have initiated on my own. So I think to answer your question would be, as an individual, just identify an activity, get the fellowship. I think when you get in touch with the fellowship leaders, they will back you up. If the activity is not in a central place, I'm sure you can also employ doing an activity with students, scholars, or graduate scholars where you are, who are present. And then I think the last part was the smooth functioning of national fellowship. So one of the things that we're also calling for is collaboration amongst fellowships as well. So we could reach out to each other. We have groups on Telegram, groups on WhatsApp. Reach out to each other. From one of the biggest thing is also the platform that WMI provides for us is the networking platform. Reach out to, if you want to learn from other people. I think technology has made it so much easier for us to reach out, whether it's in the WhatsApp group, Telegram, on Facebook. Reach out to other fellowship members to say, how have you managed to do these activities? And also, when you see a fellowship posting something on Facebook about the activity and you want to also implement a similar one, just reach out to them and find out, how did you go about it? What were your challenges? Learn from them, and also just be active. It starts with all of us. It's just not on the fellowship leaders. Because this is voluntary, it's harder for fellowship leaders to push each one of us to be part of the fellowship. So for the smooth running of both the national fellowships and also us as students and graduate scholars globally, we need to be active, and we need to also take initiative. I don't know if that answers your question, but that would be my comment. Since we're running out of time, I would like to just highlight some of the support systems that WMI has in place. Apart from the networking platforms that I mentioned with all of us, we are all our resources. WMI has regional coordinators like myself. So we have 4 regional coordinators. There's myself from Central and Southern Africa. So I support scholars, student scholars, graduate scholars, but fellowships as well within my region. So there's also the East African regional coordinator, that is Joyce Chikuku. I think so. I hope I've probably mispronounced her surname, but her name is Joyce. I can put their email addresses, but in case you want to get in touch with them, you can also they are also on all the platforms that I mentioned. There's also a West African regional coordinator, Success. She's based in Nigeria. So Joyce is from Kenya. She supports fellowships in East Africa. Success is in Nigeria, supports West Africa, and Maladeep is in Nepal. He supports Asia and Mexico region, the Asia-Mexico region. So that's one of the support system. And then I know Bella mentioned the WMI Fellowship Development Fund. So this fund is available for fellowships. So I would like to highlight how this fellowship works. So this fellowship is a $500 that is provided for fellowships. So, excuse me, so the fellowships that are eligible are even new from 0 to 2 years and above. So even if you started your fellowship, you registered your fellowship with WMI this month, you are eligible for this fund. So the key is not just a member of a fellowship to apply, but a fellowship leader. So so I'm a fellowship member, I can't apply. So one of my leaders in the Zambia Fellowship has to apply for this fund. And then this is available every 1 year of the fellow. So you can apply this year. If you had applied in January and you expanded you expensed and implemented the fund, you can apply the following year as well. So what has been made easier also is that when you apply for this fund, the response is within 7 days. So you are able to get a response and get the funding within 7 days. If there's no query, if the queries are not so much, within those few days you can get that, but after 7 days, so it doesn't have to go beyond those days to get those funds. So what the fund supports is it supports the transportation stipends to support student scholars and graduate scholars who are unemployed to attend meetings and community events. You can also apply for it for a community service event or a meeting. Professional development activities organized for members. So that is just for members. Fellowship income generating activities. So for example, if you want to start a business as a fellowship, you want to start something that will generate income, that will multiply that fund, you are able to apply for that. So how to apply for that? Just check to ensure that the fellowship is eligible. So that is, it's a fellowship recognized by WMI. So not just a gathering of students and scholars, but as long as that nation is recognized as having a fellowship, you are eligible for that. So review the funding support categories, the ones that I mentioned previously. So as a fellowship, you work together to select which areas of the support the group could utilize these effectively. So you can apply for funding from one support area or combination. It doesn't have to be just for transportation. You can apply for a combination of the different supporting areas. So you only submit one application per year. That is the year. So you carefully plan for the activities. So that is what we also look at when you're applying. What are the activities really articulate? So again, remember that your regional coordinator is a resource to help you through this. So in case you are in doubt, you can also contact me. I am at phoebe@wellsmountain.org. Wells Mountain Initiative, at .org. That is my email address in case you want to request more information on the development fund. Otherwise, I would like to thank the panelists and all you participants who stayed throughout the webinar, even with the technical issues that we had at the beginning. Thank you for staying till the end. I would like to also thank Bella and Edwin. Edwin has dropped off. Thank you, tech support, Fred, for putting the email up for me. So that is my email address in case you want to find out more about the Fellowship Development Fund and how you can apply for it and what activities you can use the fellowship for. So Bella, thank you so much for taking up this time on your Saturday to be with us. Edwin has logged off. I think it might be internet. Thank you all for also joining us. Thank you for staying over by 5 minutes or so. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about the activities that you've planned for the last few weeks of the year as we're coming to the end. Another thing that you should be looking out for as leaders, also if you are a leader, is we'll be sending out the fellowship. We'll be sending out the fellowship, the 2022 fellowship survey, just so that we can just keep track and see how we can support you next year as well. So thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.